China unexpectedly betrayed the Europeans and Americans, even though a major deal between Trump and Xi Jinping was expected on October 30th. But China chose to reinforce its stance once more, making things harder for Europe and the United States. China is imposing new restrictions on rare earth metal exports. Beijing has required companies producing goods containing more than 0.1% of certain Chinese raw materials to provide detailed information to Chinese suppliers about their further use. Thus, if Europeans hypothetically want to sell something to Americans and even a tiny amount of Chinese rare earth metal is used in it, Europe is required to obtain permission from Beijing for this. China will introduce this regulation on December 1, but there's more. Today, China is signing an expanded free trade agreement with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations as an alternative to United States protectionism. In fact, China has brought under its wing all those countries that have come under pressure from the United States. China's free trade zone now covers a combined market with a population of over 2 billion people, reduces tariffs on goods, and increases the flow of services and investments. Although all this does not mean that the United States and China have abandoned their deal. But let's figure everything out here. My name is Alexei Peci, let's discuss this topic together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, give it a like, and write a detailed comment under this episode. This boosts the video's promotion on YouTube. Subscribe to my Telegram channel Peci News, the link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation, sponsorship, or paid subscription. Use the links and details in the video description to do this. It also says support the channel Alexei Peci. Choose any format that is convenient for you. I will be grateful for your support. So, China decided to gather around itself all the countries that, in one way or another, ended up under Donald Trump's tariff strike. Today, China signed an expanded version of the free trade agreement with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. I'll refer to this as Association of Southeast Asian Nations from now on. As an example, Chinese Minister Li Qian presented the expansion of economic ties with his country as an alternative to the protectionist policies of United States President Donald Trump. And now I'll quote Li Qian, "Closer cooperation can help overcome global economic uncertainty. Confrontation instead of solidarity brings no benefit in the face of economic coercion and intimidation. There is strength in unity." And here it is. The signing of the trade agreement, chaired by Li Qiang and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who is this year's Association of Southeast Asian Nations chair, took place on the final day of the annual Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit and related meetings. Earlier on Sunday, Malaysia's Minister of Trade emphasized that cooperation between Association of Southeast Asian Nations and China is important primarily because China has been Association of Southeast Asian Nations' largest trading partner for many years. But it's also important to note that Association of Southeast Asian Nations is now equally significant. But what does this new trade pact between China and Association of Southeast Asian Nations entail? The free trade zone called Association of Southeast Asian Nations, China 3.0, is expected to expand integration in the region, covering new areas such as digital trade, the green economy, sustainable development, and support for small and medium-sized enterprises, which make up the majority of businesses in Association of Southeast Asian Nations countries. The agreement is designed to make trade benefits more accessible, facilitate market entry for smaller players, streamline non-tariff procedures, and reduce regulatory barriers. And the pact signed today, on Tuesday, is the third revision of the long-standing agreement, which was first signed in 2002 and came into effect in 2010. And now they've decided to update it, meaning nothing has been updated there since 2010, and suddenly they've decided to do it now. The free trade zone covers a combined market with a population of over 2 billion people and reduces tariffs on goods, stimulating flows of services and investments. Since the agreement came into force in 2010, the volume of bilateral trade between China and Association of Southeast Asian Nations countries grew from $235 billion per year in 2010 to nearly $1 trillion United States dollars last year. That is, you understand, trade has increased fourfold, even a little more than 4 times. Who signed this new deal? China on one side and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations members on the other. That's Brunei, Cambodia, East Timor, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. And here's another pompous quote from the Prime Minister of China about the signing of the agreement. Quote, "All association of Southeast Asian nations countries are good neighbors and good brothers, close in geography, culture, and feelings. Unilateral actions and protectionism have seriously affected the global economic and trade order, while external forces are increasing their interference in our region. Many countries have been unjustifiably subjected to high tariffs. By relying on each other and coordinating our actions, we can protect our legitimate rights and interests." Essentially, this is a side effect of the tariffs that Trump introduced. And here, we need to look at things realistically, because the updated Association of Southeast Asian Nations Pact will benefit both China and the countries of the region. This really speaks to the global reality, where countries that are not part of the United States Allies Club are coming together to strengthen trade relations so they don't end up completely left out. Although, look, most of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations countries that signed an agreement with China today have also made deals with the United States. But few are still willing to be friends only with the United States, seeing the unpredictability of United States leaders. Who, for example, imposes tariffs even on friends? Well, nobody wants to take that risk. On the other hand, on Sunday, a trade deal between the United States and China seemed to be getting closer after officials from the two largest economies in the world said they had reached a preliminary consensus. Regarding the fact that President Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping seem determined to finalize it, during their important meeting this Thursday, Trump intends to meet with Xi Jinping in South Korea. And by the way, South Korea will be the last stop of his trip to Asia. But China isn't stopping there, and here it delivered a blow right to the Europeans. Earlier, it became known that Trump secured a delay from China on global tariffs for rare earth metals. But it turned out things weren't so clear-cut. China still managed to get its way. China is introducing new global restrictions on the export of rare earth metals to Europe. Beijing has required companies producing goods containing more than 0.1% of certain Chinese raw materials to provide detailed information to Chinese suppliers about their further use. Thus, if, for example, a German or French company wants to export a product made in Germany or France using Chinese raw materials, where 0.1% of that raw material is present, starting December 1, it will need a license from Beijing. Companies that do not comply with these rules risk having their supply of rare earth metals cut off. Even those who follow the new rules carefully aren't protected. Why? Because the export permit issued by China's Ministry of Commerce, the decision is often delayed. And secondly, the Ministry of Commerce of China is an agency that looks exclusively to the political decisions of the Communist Party of China, not to market conditions. For your understanding, Europe gets 98% of its gallium, 95% of its graphite and manganese, 81% of its molybdenum, and 77% of its cobalt from China. Most of the lithium, titanium, vanadium, and other rare metals needed for high-tech production. And it's also important to remember that all rare earth metals are crucial for the defense industry. Europe now expects China to restrict supplies to European Union military enterprises starting December 1 startsa. The new rules are essentially a de facto export blockade with direct consequences for the defense industry. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinion and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all. Take care. Goodbye, everyone. Subtitle editor, proofreader.